Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And as you say, I would like to make some brief remarks on the current economic situation. Mr. Speaker, the United States' decision to impose tariffs has had and will continue to have huge implications for the world economy. These implications have been reflected in the reaction that we have seen in global markets in recent days, which the financial authorities have, of course, been monitoring closely. This morning I spoke to the Governor of the Bank of England, who has confirmed that markets are functioning effectively and that our banking system is resilient. I know too that this is an anxious time for families who are worried about the cost of living. We have your backs. And British businesses who are worried about what a changing world will mean for them, we have your backs too. This government is clear-eyed that our response to global change cannot be to watch and wait, but instead to act decisively, to take the right decisions that are in our national interest, protecting working people. All of the decisions that we make as a government will be underpinned by the stability of our non-negotiable fiscal rules. Mr. Speaker, a trade war is in nobody's interest. It is why we must remain pragmatic, cool-headed and pursue the best deal with the United States that is in our national interest. This remains our priority, and that was part of the discussion that I had with US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent last week. But we have been clear, nothing is off the table. It is why we will continue to back British businesses during these uncertain times, particularly those industries that are most affected, as we rebuild our industrial base here in Britain. We showed that backing yesterday when the Prime Minister and I announced new measures to give British car makers certainty, stability, and to support them on the transition to electric vehicles. We have put forward plans to support our life sciences sector by cutting back the time it will take to set up clinical trials in the UK. It is why we are working with our international allies to reduce barriers to trade right across the world. Over recent days, I have had discussions with my counterparts in Canada, Australia, Ireland, France, Spain and France, and with the European Commission. We will pursue these talks in earnest. Tomorrow I will hold talks with the Indian government as part of our two nations' economic and financial dialogue as we seek to secure a new trade deal with India. And finally, we must go further and faster in our mission to kickstart economic growth. I know that the challenges facing the global economy and the potential impact could be profound. And as a government, we must step up to that challenge to deliver security for working people through our plan for change that is underpinned by stability, reform and investment. Prioritising the builders, not the blockers. Reforming our public services, not defending the status quo. Investing in our long-term infrastructure, not cutting it for the short term. Security for working people. Renewal for Britain. That is our focus. And, Mr. Speaker, that is what this government will deliver.
Shadow Chancellor Melstrom.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and could I thank the Right Honourable Lady for the advance notice of her comments. Mr. Speaker, this is a time of great concern for millions of people up and down our country, for businesses and as an open trading nation for our economy at large. Free trade has been the bedrock of prosperity for our country and many countries around the world for decades. It has raised billions out of poverty. Tariffs are the enemy of free trade, and we on this side of the House will do whatever we can to assist the government in getting those tariffs down. Having said that, of course, we will never cease becoming an effective opposition, vigorously holding them to account, not least on the disastrous decisions that they have taken already in respect of our economy. But we will be responsible when it comes to these matters, particularly where market sensitivities are engaged. Could I ask the Right Honourable Lady the following? Firstly, could she provide further details of the US negotiations and specifically whether further meetings with Scott Bessent and others have been arranged that involve herself? Secondly, what areas beyond tariffs are being discussed in those negotiations? Thirdly, what sectors beyond cars and life sciences that the Right Honourable Lady made reference to are being considered for potential government support? And finally, could she update the House on what options there are for protecting sectors of the economy which may be affected by the dumping of goods as a consequence of trade diversion?
I'd like to thank the Right Honourable Gentleman for that response and also for his offer to work constructively. I think that in my time as Shadow Chancellor, those moments when we can work constructively in the national interest, whether that was in the response to COVID or indeed in supporting Ukraine against the aggression of Russia, it is when this House is at its best, when we work together in the national interest. The Shadow Chancellor asked for further details in a number of areas. Discussions are ongoing across a range of government departments, including the Treasury, with the United States, and I will be meeting US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent shortly. Beyond tariffs, of course, we are discussing a range of different areas, but the focus is on reducing tariff and non-tariff barriers to trade, with a particular focus on those sectors that are subject to the higher tariffs. Because although the 10% tariffs are lower than many other countries around the world, and we welcome that, the additional tariffs on cars, on steel, and potentially on life sciences pose a real challenge to our country, because those are some of our biggest export markets. It's why we made the announcements that we made yesterday, but in those sectors, automotives, life sciences and steel, we will continue to take the action that is necessary, working in partnership with business and also with trade unions to make sure that we are addressing those issues. We are also using institutions like the British Business Bank, the National Wealth Fund and UK Export Finance to help businesses through these times. The Shadow Chancellor also mentioned concerns around dumping. We, of course, are working with international colleagues around the world to understand those implications. But our first priority is not to create more trade barriers, but to reduce the ones that exist today.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. People up and down the country will be incredibly concerned about what Trump's trade war means for their living standards and for their communities as well. But at the same time, people want to show that Britain is not going to take Donald Trump's trade tariffs lying down. We welcome the Chancellor's announcement that the government will be working further and faster with our allies abroad, and I would ask the Chancellor to confirm that any new trade deals will be brought before this House for a vote before they are ratified. But, Mr. Speaker, at the same time, what I want to ask the Chancellor is whether, at the same time as working with our allies abroad to create new export markets, will the Chancellor and the government commit to a Buy British campaign as part of a broader national effort to encourage people to buy British here at home?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Honourable Lady for those questions. This is a time for pragmatism and cool heads, and not a Russia response. We are working closely with business. My Right Honourable friend, the Business and Trade Secretary, announced in the House last week a call for evidence in terms of the response that business are looking for, because ratcheting up barriers to trade, ratcheting up tariffs will not be in our country's interest, whether that's in inflation or indeed for supply chains. So I think we do need to have cool heads and think about the national interest, not knee-jerk reactions. In terms of doing deals with other countries around the world, that is something we're very much focused on. There's the EU-UK summit on the 18th of May. We are hosting the Economic and Financial Dialogue with Minister Sitaraman coming to London today for those conversations, and those discussions are ongoing with a number of countries. Of course, any treaties would be brought forward for ratification by this House. In terms of buying British, I think everyone will make their own decisions. What we don't want to see is a trade war with Britain becoming inward-looking, because if every country in the world decided that they only wanted to buy things produced in their country, that is not a good way forward. Our country has benefited hugely from access to global markets, and we will continue to want to be able to do that, because that is in our national interest for working people and for businesses in this country.